Greetings and salutations, friends, and welcome back. We are broadcasting live, I think, for the last time from our temporary setup and studio. I'll be returning to my main headquarters, the tiny attic office. Some people have a basement office. I have an attic office, and I much prefer working there. In fact, I do all the work for the show there, but because of the temperature and summer, I have not been able to broadcast from there all summer, returning hopefully next week. So tonight, we'll be discussing this incredible revelations coming from one Jeremy McGowan, who was once in the inner circle of one Lou Elizondo. Lou Elizondo was once perceived to be not like all the other UFO nutters. He was once perceived to be much more credible than the usual, what I call UFO hucksters, people who sell UFO crap for a living. Full time, Lou Elizondo first claimed that he left the United States government disgruntled with the way they were handling UFOs when he was the director of a Pentagon UFO program. Later, we find out that he wasn't the director of any Pentagon UFO program except in his own imagination. And several high-profile mainstream media journalists have come out recently and claimed that they were misled by Luis Elizondo and company, TTSA, as well. And it's interesting that Luis Elizondo was the original source for the original New York Times article that started a firestorm of media coverage about UFOs and what the government really knows. And it's interesting that that original piece in the New York Times is riddled with factual inaccuracies. Some would say lies. And the original primary source for that article was Luis Elizondo. So, based on all available evidence, I would say it's very clear that Mr. Elizondo lied to reporters at the New York Times. And then what happened is all the lazy reporters in the world just copied and pasted the facts, the fake facts that were presented in the New York Times article. It's taken years to pick apart that article and for people to find out that many of this so-called facts in that original article about Luis Elizondo and his involvement with UFOs working for the government was largely false. Luis Elizondo had no assigned responsibilities by the United States government around or surrounding UFOs. In his own IG complaint, he has a problem with the Pentagon releasing statements that say he had no responsibilities with UFOs or that he was not the director of any program called ATIP. Of course, there are conflicting statements, and people like to hold up this letter from Senator Harry Reid, which he wrote shortly before he died. And no offense, but Harry Reid was in on what I call a $22 million scam to defraud the taxpayers of the United States out of $22 million. So I don't believe the letter from Harry Reid, which was the only government source that said he was the director of a program. We have to remember that Harry Reid was one of the originators of the $22 million scam, and I'm going to call it a scam. It's my opinion that it was a scam to defraud the American public out of $22 million. And what did we get for our $22 million? We got a lot of reports about, dino beavers, werewolves, wraiths, poltergeists, shadow beings, hitchhikers that attach themselves to people. There's an incredible amount of garbage was produced for our $22 million. And of course, Harry Reid gave that $22 million to one of his very close friends and often campaign contributor to Harry Reid in the form of billionaire Bob Bigelow. And if all of this doesn't sound scammy enough, we need to always remember that Harry Reid and a couple of other senators with some interest in the paranormal and UFOs somehow procured $22 million of taxpayer money, and then gave it to Bob Bigelow, who used most of it, or some say half of it. I've heard various breakdowns of where the money went, but a large portion of that $22 million was spent studying a ranch that he himself owned. And no offense, but as far as I'm concerned, if you're going to take money from my taxes that I pay, it shouldn't go so that some billionaire who's already a billionaire can use that money to study a ranch that he owns and claims is a, quote, hotspot of paranormal activity, unquote. And we have seen that the whole Skinwalker Ranch is one big circus. And one thing that everybody who promotes Skinwalker has in common is they're all making millions of dollars. Bob Bigelow got $22 million. George Knapp has made millions of dollars in multiple book deals. And now we have Brandon Fugel, who bought the ranch. And I would assume, and maybe this is not a correct assumption, I'm not aware of the total numbers, but Brandon Fugel and all of his gang doing a television show around Skinwalker. They're up to season 3. I think there's going to be a season 4. It might be safe to assume that Brandon Fugel and Travis Taylor and all those people on The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch have collectively made millions of dollars huckstering that the Skinwalker Ranch is some paranormal hotspot, and there's all these things going on, from werewolves to shape-shifting aliens, interdimensional beings, stargates, let's see, wraiths, poltergeists, werewolves. Did I mention the werewolves? Oh, and dino beavers and more. It's a smorgasbord of strangeness, Skinwalker Ranch. But along comes Luis Elizondo, who, after the $22 million was already spent, claimed to the New York Times that he was running a secret Pentagon UFO program that was funded with $22 million. We later find out that that was the $22 million that went to Bob Bigelow and his buddies that they wasted, and we got nothing for. All of this is very shady. But then we find out that Luis Elizondo never actually ran any Pentagon UFO program. And people can argue, because conveniently, ATIP, the program he claimed to be the director of, after the funding was over for that program called OSAP, many people have said that ATIP was a nickname for that program after it ended and ran out of funding. So it gets murky. But I think the important part is that Luis Elizondo sort of jettisoned into the UFO community, claiming that he was some sort of savior of disclosure, and he was going to bring us that disclosure. Luis Elizondo was disgruntled, after all, with the way the government was handling UFOs, but he was going to fix that because he, my friends, was going to do it the right way. But what we have found out since then is very telling. What we have found out since then, and it's important, it's very important that we remember that Luis Elizondo's first sort of the perception of most people interested or in the UFO community was that Luis Elizondo was a serious former government worker, you know, an intelligence officer. He was not just another disclosure grifter that was going to scam the public with fake stuff and make millions of dollars. But I think it's very clear, and we can see it, that Luis Elizondo, he played everyone. He lied to the New York Times. Somebody lied to the New York Times about his, or let's say, overstated his involvement in a program that never truly existed. And this is very problematic. So his perception, the initial perception of the UFO community, was cult-like, and a whole cult formed around him. And I do have to place on the record that many people who were critical of Luis Elizondo since the beginning, I was one that was very critical of both TTSA and Luis Elizondo, has suffered a tremendous amount of online harassment, cyberstalking, bullying. In my case, people have threatened me. People have threatened my family. People have threatened me in other ways. You know, someone literally came into my live chat with threats. And I was also doxxed by supporters of this Luis Elizondo, and they justified their doxing of me. For those unaware, doxing means that they released, well, it gets complicated. Technically, according to the asshole who did it, Rob Heatherly, he didn't dox me because he only released my legal name and my street name. He didn't release my physical address. But if you Google those two things, you find my home address where myself and my family live. And by the way, Rob Heatherly, I'm in touch with law enforcement over that. And you should be worried. You should be very worried. And isn't it incredible that Luis Elizondo was informed that this person did that, and that a certain show and their co-host, their producer, and more, and it's been a while, so I'm not sure if it was this Gary Ack who did the actual doxing of me or releasing that information, or Rob Heatherly. I think it was both of them, the best that I recall. Luis Elizondo was informed via Twitter that happened. Luis Elizondo was also informed via Twitter that people were doxing, harassing, cyberstalking, and threatening the girlfriend of a documentary filmmaker for that documentary, Who's Lou. He was told all this on Twitter, and we have all the screenshots. He can claim he doesn't read his Twitter or the replies to his tweets, but he was notified that people were being threatened, intimidated, harassed, doxxed, cyberstalked. Their families were threatened. People's significant others, girlfriends and wives and children were threatened. He was informed of all of that. And instead of releasing a statement condemning those things done, and by the way, those things were very clearly done in his name. People said, because of you criticizing Lou, we're gonna attack you. We're gonna release your personal information. It was very clear that these people who did these things did it in his name. And I'm entitled to my own personal belief. I believe that he perhaps knew about it, maybe even encouraged that behavior, because after being informed that all of this has taken place, instead of releasing a statement condemning people threatening, intimidating, harassing people's families, children, and wives and significant others who were critical of him on the internet, instead of releasing a statement, which is what a good man and an honorable man would do, no, what Luis Elizondo did is he rewarded those people who did those things with another guest appearance on their show. Is that just a coincidence? Or was this an organized campaign of terror to shut people up so that Lou Elizondo could continue to grift for UFO dollars? And by the way, there are more. We got a lot more for you, Lou Elizondo. There's a lot more coming out. If people think that recent revelations were damaging to one Luis Elizondo, I have very good information. More is coming. More is coming that will paint him for the UFO profiteering huckster that he is. Nothing that he said has come to pass. People credit him with interest. If congressional, they're having hearings. He did that. No, he didn't. Prove it. He didn't do that. He may have done a lot of media appearances, hiding behind an NDA, claiming ridiculous, fantastical things with no evidence, no proof, no backup, nothing. Like the government is in possession of exotic materials. And while with TTSA, he all but promised everyone that they had alien materials. Remember that Adam Project, TTSA? Yeah, what happened to that? Where's the analysis? Oh, that's right. The stuff they had was arts parts, which was already debunked as a hoax many, many years ago. And we covered that. There is more coming out. But this week, we got another drop from one Jeremy McGowan. And in this circumstance, this McGowan, I'm thankful that McGowan had the courage to come forward with this information. And by the way, he's got backup of everything that he's saying in these blogs. He's got proof and evidence. And people can throw around legal threats. If this becomes a legal situation, McGowan is going to drop everything in his legal defense. Every text message, every voice note, every recorded conversation, everything will be dropped. And that will all become public knowledge, because once it's in the court records, I can get it, you can get it, we all can get it and see who's the bullshitter here. I know who I think the BSer is, and it's not Jeremy McGowan. And what we can see is, just like I believe that Luis Elizondo manipulated people like Lou Angeles from Unidentified Celebrity Review to do things he wanted, just like we see that he manipulated these other idiot show hosts who doxed, threatened, intimidated, and harassed his critics, we can clearly see that Luis Elizondo manipulated Jeremy McGowan to do what he wanted. He used him. Luis Elizondo is a manipulator and a user of people. But it's important that we remember that he's a counterintelligence officer. That's what counterintelligence officers do. They manipulate people and they put out stories to counter the actual truth. That's their job. Luis Elizondo, you stupid people who believe everything he says, you need to realize that he was a counterintelligence officer, also known as a professional liar. That's what a counterintelligence officer is, a trained professional manipulator and liar. That's what Luis Elizondo is. And all you fanboys can say whatever you want. Go ask anybody in the intelligence community, what is the role of a counterintelligence officer? It is to be a manipulator of perceptions and people. It is to be a liar, a deceiver. And that is what Luis Elizondo is, a deceptive, manipulative liar. And his own words betray him. And isn't it great that once in a while, the veil that he usually holds up, that veil of deception cracks for him sometimes. It becomes very thin when he gets emotional. I've noticed this. And Luis Elizondo breaks and tells the truth occasionally. We did a video here. Luis Elizondo finally tells the truth. Let's watch, friends, as a counterintelligence officer, for once in his life, tells the truth. And ask yourself this question. Why was he sent into the UFO community? Why was he sent to employ his skill set into the UFO community? Is this a psyop? I believe that it is. There's one or two possibilities that I'm left with. This man is no savior of disclosure. This man is no truth teller, truth seeker. This man is a manipulator of people and perceptions. He is a user, a deceiver, and a liar. His own words betray him, friends. Watch.
It's about truth. It's about disclosure. It's about transparency. And if it means that I don't get my day in the spotlight, then that's okay, because it's not about that. It never was about that. I didn't leave the Department of Defense because I wanted my day in the spotlight. I left the Department of Defense, ironically enough, to finish the very mission they gave me in the first place. I didn't ask for it. I'm not a UFO guy. I'm not a ufologist. I never have been. I never will be. I'm a counterterrorism and counterespionage guy. I do counterintelligence, counterinsurgencies. That's what I do. And it just so happens that in 2008, I was asked to apply those same skill sets into the UFO community. But I'm not a UFO guy. And so for me, it's all about the truth. Whether I'm hunting a terrorist or a spy or a UFO, the bottom line is the truth is the truth. I'm a counterterrorism and counterespionage guy. I do counterintelligence, counterinsurgencies. That's what I do. And it just so happens that in 2008, I was asked to apply those same skill sets into the UFO community. The bottom line is the truth is the truth. I'm a counterterrorism and counterespionage guy. I do counterintelligence, counterinsurgencies. That's what I do. And it just so happens that in 2008, I was asked to apply those same skill sets into the UFO community. The bottom line is the truth is the truth. It just so happens that in 2008, I was asked to apply those same skill sets into the UFO community. The bottom line is the truth is the truth. I'm a counterterrorism and counterespionage guy. I do counterintelligence, counterinsurgencies. That's what I do. The bottom line is the truth is the truth. I'm a counterterrorism and counterespionage guy. I do counterintelligence, counterinsurgencies. That's what I do. The bottom line is the truth is the truth. It just so happens that in 2008, I was asked to apply those same skill sets into the UFO community. The bottom line is the truth is the truth.
The Central Intelligence Agency is set up to deceive. That's what their job is, in fact. Counterintelligence, Lou, counterintelligence means I have to lie. That's my job. So what is counterintelligence? What are some of the methods? That's something that the UFO field could study instead of people going off about, did Lou make a comment? That doesn't go anywhere. What is that going to do for you? Who cares about Lou Elizondo ultimately, except as a pawn of the CIA threat motion? Otherwise, it's just drivel, right? So, and how, it could be anybody. They could have gotten someone else instead in that program and dressed them up for the part. I don't think, it's not a special kind of assignment that they got for Lou. I just think that he kind of fit what they were doing, and they felt this is a guy who can pull it off. He's done a lot of counterintelligence. But I think what's important is, what is counterintelligence? Just in a nutshell, I need to deceive another country about what my activities are, militarily, espionage-wise, etc. And I need them to believe that something is happening that's totally different from what is actually happening. So I need to create a counter-narrative to the truth. That's counterintelligence. I need to lie to get people to believe. So therefore, Elizondo has a lot of experience. He's a professional liar. That's just a fact. And expecting the truth from people like that, or the Central Intelligence Agency, counterintelligence agents in general, is craziness. Whoever thought of such a thing? And so the way they've rolled it out and packaged it up and put a lot of money behind it and the media behind it, yes. But I think we've come past a phase, we are all kind of graduating in our own awareness. And this is pretty obvious, so this one is getting pretty wobbly.
It is getting pretty wobbly. And Walter Bosley, you're welcome to come here and discuss counterintelligence in more detail. You certainly, former intelligence officer yourself, are more qualified to offer us the proper definition. But I'm certain that counterintelligence officers do deal at times with, creating a narrative counter to the truth, as they did in World War II, to deceive the Nazis into believing they were invading somewhere else, not the beach at Normandy, and other examples that I could think of. So some night, Walter Bosley will come here and try to educate all of us, including me, in more accurate representations of counterintelligence. So I mentioned that Luis Elizondo's perception when he entered the UFO community in 2016 really was that he was much more credible. He was not a David Wilcock or a Corey Goode. He was not a Stephen Greer or some of these other characters who promised disclosure but only sell courses and, their latest projects for cash constantly. And the perception, and I was told this by many different people, look, he's not cashing in. But eventually he did start cashing in, those lucrative speaking engagements, those offers to have television show deals and book deals. And he did cash in. And it's interesting that Mr. McGowan's telling of his interaction with Luis Elizondo was that, at least from my reading of it, this is my take from the McGowan blog, is that Luis Elizondo was very focused on getting a TV show deal and using Jeremy's resources. And Jeremy, for those unaware, Jeremy created something called the Osiris Project, which was a vehicle that would be jam-packed full of electronic gear and surveillance equipment and all kinds of fun toys to film, track, and study UFOs. And it's my belief that Luis Elizondo heard about this and thought he could use Jeremy to get a TV show deal based on all of Jeremy's work creating this Osiris vehicle, which, by the way, we got to do an episode just on that. I'm going to ask Jeremy to do that. I realize he's a very busy guy, but it's amazing, this thing that he created out of an old SUV, really. And it's just jam-packed full of amazing equipment to study UFOs. So the blog details Luis Elizondo cozying up to Jeremy, and I believe it's very clear that Luis Elizondo was manipulating him, even to the point of pretending to have superpowers. And here's where it gets interesting. I mentioned the perception of Luis Elizondo was he was not just another UFO grifter like the rest of them. But now we see, as more time goes on and the more we learn about Mr. Luis Elizondo, the more that we realize that he is just like all those other UFO grifters. Just like David Wilcock, who claims to have superpowers, now we get the confirmation, and by the way, there's confirmation from several different sources that Luis Elizondo claims to have superpowers to various people, including Lakatsky and others in that Pentagon, Skinwalkers at the Pentagon book. He talked about his remote viewing in that book to several people, witnesses. Now, and there have been rumors of this, that he was a remote viewer. And to McGowan, he sort of claimed that he could, remote view places and people and different times for people. And he gives Jeremy McGowan a sort of psychic vision of his future that Jeremy McGowan would describe later as brain rape. He brain raped Jeremy McGowan by various methods, telling him that tragedy would befall him, and even apparently giving him the date of when that tragedy would take place. And this, of course, would worry anyone. And since then, and to his credit, most of Jeremy McGowan has said that most of his, logical brain has said this is nonsense, this is woo, this isn't reality. But he still has one portion of his mind that worries about that impending date of doom for him, and who wouldn't, right? Because what if, on the off chance, this woo remote viewing of Luis Elizondo's is accurate, and does McGowan really have to worry every day of his life about this unsolicited psychic vision that Luis Elizondo shared with him? And isn't it amazing now that just like David Wilcock, who claims to have superpowers, now we have another disclosure messiah who claims to have superpowers. Friends, if you're going to be a UFO disclosure guru or messiah, you got to have some superpowers. We have seen it with David Wilcock. We have seen it with Corey Goode. We have seen it with Dr. Stephen Greer. and many others. And now we see it with Luis Elizondo, which means that that entire perception that he once held, people held of about him being much more credible than these nutter other guys. Well, now we see he's just as much of a nutter, because he, in private, is telling people he has superpowers. And by the way, I have another source who Luis Elizondo told he had superpowers. So, and then we have the source in the book where Luis Elizondo is telling people about his remote viewing superpowers, right? Did he, I believe it was that he remote viewed the battlefield or something, and saved his military group somehow with his superpowers. So now what we have, friends, is just another UFO grifter, false UFO disclosure messiah, with much of the same attributes or qualities of all the other false UFO messiahs that never bring us the disclosure that they promise us all. But instead, they all do the same thing. They fill their pockets with that UFO money. They run through collecting all the UFO dollars they can. Let's get some TV show deals, documentary deals, speaking deals, book deals. And that's what they get. That's what we get. We never get the disclosure that they promise. What we get is a bunch of half-truths, fake stories, manufactured evidence, false narratives that fall apart over time and under scrutiny. And we get told that they have superpowers. So we should just believe them because they have superpowers. David Wilcock tells everybody that the Archangel Michael told him that he's Earth's greatest prophet, even though all of his psychic predictions fail miserably. Now we've got Dr. Stephen Greer claiming that he has superpowers. He can communicate with extraterrestrials and he can summon their spaceships, and just pay me, $10,000 or $5,000 to go on a retreat with me for the weekend. And then Dr. Stephen Greer gets caught with military exercises and flares, claiming those are the spaceships. And now we have Luis Elizondo, the latest in a long line of false UFO prophets, promising that disclosure and the truth about aliens is right around the corner. Just make sure you send me your money, buy my latest garbage, whatever garbage product they're selling, buy my latest product. Disclosure's coming any day now. And now we get the revelations that Luis Elizondo has superpowers. Great. He's got superpowers. And that may explain, by the way, that show host whose co-producer and co-host doxed me, threatened my family. That guy claims that he has the same superpowers that Luis Elizondo has. He's a remote viewer too, besides being an ancient aliens theorist, an alien abduction victim, right? Sure. He's got superpowers. And so does Luis Elizondo. And by the way, let's be very clear here. Let me be very clear in that I have studied over 100 psychics and investigated over 100 of them. Some names you've never heard of, others names you've certainly heard of, like John Edward, James von Prague, Sylvia Brown, and Uri Geller, and many, many others. And I have always wanted, it's a personal quest of mine, I have always wanted to find someone with genuine psychic abilities. But I have studied over 100 of people who claim to have genuine psychic abilities, never found a single genuine one. But I have found people using deception. I have found people using magic tricks. I have found people using magic tricks in any magic trick book you can find in the library. I have found people using what's called pre-show work or listening devices to give people the illusion. In other words, fill out this card, tell us about yourself before you come in. And then the psychic revelations are all things from the card that people filled out before they came in. And mediums, especially, I have a problem with. Who were you trying to contact? Here, fill out this card before you come into the event. Which person in your life are you trying to contact? What's their name and relationship to you? And then suddenly, 25 minutes later, the medium on stage is, I'm getting contacted by a John who's related to a Mary. He's Mary's father. Is Mary here? Yeah. Deception and trickery. And in all cases, profiteers, profiting from people who want desperately to believe. But it's enough to say that I have studied over 100 psychics. But in full disclosure, I have not tested, investigated, or studied any, not one, remote viewer. So I cannot tell you with 100% certainty that I don't believe that remote viewing is at least possible. Do I believe it's probable? Probably real? No. But I want to just be honest with my audience. And I will say that I have read some pretty convincing things about remote viewing, and I still hold that in my gray basket as possibly real. But what you have to remember is that people who claim the superpower of remote viewing claim that they can remote view anytime, any place, any person. And so this is very problematic for Luis Elizondo, who's claiming to have these superpowers, because if he truly was gifted with the superpower of remote viewing, wouldn't he have remote viewed Tom DeLonge's future and found out that Tom DeLonge was going to miserably fail with this TTSA effort, and they would, Luis Elizondo would have to quit and leave in a huff because he wasn't making the money that Tom DeLonge apparently promised? Wouldn't he have been able to remote view people finding out about those sock puppet accounts that he was, arguing with and threatening his, I don't know that he made threats, arguing with his critics on Twitter? Wouldn't he be able to remote view those things? Wouldn't he be able to remote view that things would go south with both Jeremy McGowan, with his relationship with McGowan, and also his relationship with Lou Angeles from Unidentified Celebrity Review? Wouldn't he be able to remote view that maybe using some analogy, telling somebody, what if somebody called your mom a hooker, might not go over well? If he's truly gifted with some foresight, apparently he didn't see any of those things coming. So for now, unless he's willing to submit to some vigorous scientific, study, I'm going to call BS on his superpowers. And it's interesting that he is using, telling people that he's gifted with these superpowers as a form of manipulation. He is manipulating people by telling them that he can see their future and trying to draw people close to him, make people more loyal to him because, hey, I can remote view. Don't be disloyal to me. I'll know it. I'm a remote viewer. But I think it's more important to hear about Luis Elizondo's claimed superpowers from the man himself who was very close to him for a time, and that would be Jeremy McGowan. I was rushing for broadcast today, and I did not reach out to Erica Lukes, but we are going to, I'm going to put up my fair use banner here. We're going to be sharing a clip from her show, and this is a transformative work. We're educating the public and critiquing the video that we are sharing. We'll also be discussing the information that McGowan puts forth in this video. This is certainly covered fair use and is allowable by law. Now, insofar as Erica Lukes, a lot of people ask me, who are the good people, Stephen? Who are people that you trust that aren't liars, profiteering hucksters, scammers, hoaxers, or whatever? Erica Lukes is one of the good guys, friends. And I, for one, like and respect her. She does good work. And the link to subscribe to her channel is in the description of this video here. So please do go and support somebody doing things the right way. Erica Lukes is also doing this special project to preserve research about UFOs and aliens and other strange and esoteric topics, which I will certainly be supporting. She's starting a nonprofit to do that, and I will be donating it to that. And because I think preservation of history is important, and I encourage you as well to support her in that effort. So please do support her channel. We will be showing you a clip. And in this clip, Erica asks Jeremy McGowan about the remote viewing, and we get to hear all about Luis Elizondo's superpowers. Let's get into it, friends.
So did he ever talk about remote viewing?
Well, he tried to remote view me, or he at least alluded to the fact that he did remote view me. This was wild. This was something that I was calling bullshit on as it happened, but I didn't fully put it together until several days after the event, because I couldn't stop thinking about it. We were in Lou's kitchen / dining room, and it was myself. My wife was actually there, but she had gone to bed. So it was myself, Lou, Sean. I want to say that it was Jake that was there. It was either Jake or Justin. And we were having a discussion at Lou's table, one of the more woo esoteric discussions about realities and the nature of the world and things like that. And Lou was asked by, I think, Justin about remote viewing. And Lou grabs a napkin and a Sharpie, and he starts drawing on this napkin these boxes, and he labels these boxes realm 1, realm 2, 3, and 4, and so on. And he starts describing what remote viewing is, and it was counter to what I had thought that I had known at the time. But he goes, this is, if you're remote viewing and you go here, this is being able to see objects. This realm is when you can see people. This realm is when you can see people, but in different times. And then he goes, in this realm over here, if you go into this realm, there's no humanity here, and you can get lost, and you might not make it back. So don't go to this realm. This is your reaction that you just had right there is basically the reaction that I was having.
Sorry, I thought I was doing that on my inside voice.
No, that was
okay.
Very evident outside. So I was having the exact same reaction. And Lou saw it, and he stopped. He stopped the conversation, and Lou was sitting directly to my right-hand side, and puts the paper down, puts the pen or the Sharpie down. And he reaches over with his left hand, and he puts his left hand on my right arm, and he grasps my right arm, and he kind of drops his head a little bit, and then he starts talking to me without talking to me, if that makes any sense. And he's telling me that, my daughter is going to go to the most prestigious university in the United States. She's going to get a full ride scholarship. He's telling me things that are going to happen at specific dates and times, and he's like, I've got the note that I wrote down, so don't take this as a direct quote. But he was like, in a year and 3 months, or a year and 4 months, or 2 years and 3 months, whatever it was, this thing is going to happen, and you're going to look back on it. And his exact words were, "You're going to think that son of a bitch was right."
Is he friends with John Edwards? I don't know.
So I'm not buying it, and he can see that I'm not buying it because my body language. And Lou's not a dumb guy. He is a counterintelligence officer, and they're trained on interrogation interview techniques. And I'm sure he could read my body language, knowing that mentally I'm saying this is absolute crap. So then he goes into this thing about something that's going to happen to me in X number of years and months. And he goes, and you're going to have a very, very hard time getting over this. And this pissed me off. This pissed me off a lot. And this is something that I'm detailing in part 4 of my articles, and I'll kind of go into it a little bit here. But it made me mad. And it made me mad because, if you remember, I'm open to the idea of Wu being real. I'm open to the idea that there is some sort of consciousness aspect to a portion of the phenomenon. I want the data, I want the numbers, I believe in the nuts and bolts of it, but I'm open to this other possibility. What he said to me was not invited. I didn't ask for it. I didn't want to know it. And for him to involuntarily tell me what's going to happen to me in the future is one of the most unethical things I could ever think that could be done to another human being outside of blatant torture and physical abuse. Because he didn't give me details, and when I asked for details, he refused to give me the details. He planted a seed in my head because I still have a little piece that's open to the idea that the Wu is real, and he put that damn seed in my head. So every single damn day since then, I look at my calendar, I count the days, and I imagine what's going to happen if Lou is actually right. What am I going to be faced with? Is it going to be the death of a family member? Is somebody going to die in a house fire? Am I going to fall down and break my neck and be paralyzed for the rest of my life? What the hell did he see, if he saw anything, if any of this is even remotely real? I didn't want it. I didn't ask for it. And it was bullshit for him to do that.
And again, that's just another way to manipulate people and get into their, yeah, I mean, and that's, yeah, I'm sorry that I did that.
I mean, my rational brain is screaming at me every day that he was lying, he was being P.T. Barnum, and this was all showmanship to groom an asset for his personal purposes.
Right.
That's my rational brain. But there's this tiny little synaptic section somewhere back there that goes, but what if he's right? And that's what eats at me, and that's what makes me so damn mad at what he did.
And I think, great comments, you guys, tonight in chat. I really appreciate this. And Havelock is saying, it's a great psyop technique. I mean, these obviously, these people are really proficient at just manipulation. And
it's brain rape. It's brain rape. It's brain rape.
Well, there you have it, friends. It's brain rape. And this is from a one-time close associate of Luis Elizondo, who feels that he was brain raped. And isn't that interesting? I found the revelations in this latest blog post of Jeremy McGowan to be most interesting. And we are, again, going to cite fair use. I'll be sharing some of his blog. And let's get into it, friends, because there are some certain revelations there that I think are very, very important, including revelations about what the hell happened with TTSA. Luis Elizondo has never publicly talked about why he left TTSA, and it seemed to be that both of them had some unwritten rule that neither would throw shade on the other, both saying positive things about each other after the breakup, right? Which kind of reminds me of breaking up with the girl. Anybody else ever have that happen? Like you and the girl that you broke up with, or if you're female, I guess you and whoever you broke up with decide, look, let's not be nasty about this. Let's just, not say anything negative about each other. That's kind of what happened when Luis Elizondo left TTSA. He didn't say anything negative. But privately, oh boy, was he throwing shade on TTSA. Sure he was. One second, let me pull this over here. and we will share portions. I have selected what I feel are the most important. But by the way, Jeremy McGowan's blog is detailed in 4 different parts. Tonight we're talking about part 4. Maybe we'll do another show on the other stuff in parts 1 to 3. But the link to this part 4 of his blog post, I highly recommend that you read the entire thing, because when I say that it's my personal belief that Luis Elizondo is a deceiver and a manipulator of perceptions and people, it's one thing for me to say it. Read this blog post and let me know if you don't come away agreeing with the assertion that Luis Elizondo is a manipulator and a deceiver. So let's get into it, friends. And again, this is from Jeremy McGowan's blog, part 4. It is in the description of the video. In this section, he says, one thing I kept replaying in my head was a conversation I listened to in Lou's kitchen where I, Sean, Lou, and a few others were discussing our project and making statements as to how this was what TTSA was supposed to have accomplished. Ironically, this conversation would come full circle in a later conversation with studio executives from HBO Max. That comparison inevitably leads to someone asking Lou, what happened to TTSA? Lou's response was rather shocking. Now, please remember, I am paraphrasing in this next directly following section, and the quote isn't exact, but the gist is, Lou told us that TTSA collapsed because Tom DeLonge's sister was mismanaging the organization, and that Tom had taken the investor money and used it to make a movie. Interestingly enough, after saying that it would likely be that Tom would go to jail, that topic was dropped. So I have called TTSA a techno scam. Others have called TTSA a techno scam. After all, they did promise people a spaceship with a, quote, revolutionary power source that would change the world, and never delivered anything like that. It appears that, according to Luis Elizondo, Tom DeLonge's sister was mismanaging the organization. And it's interesting to note that Tom DeLonge's sister, I believe she's paid $150,000 a year out of public investment funds to be their public relations person. I wasn't aware she was running the entire organization, but according to Lou Elizondo, she was mismanaging the organization, and Tom had taken the investor money and used it to make a movie. Interestingly, Tom DeLonge has a movie come out. What is it? Monsters of Hollywood, which is laughably bad. That looks like a high school student made that movie. That's my opinion. I'm entitled to it. Jeremy goes on to say, the conversation then concentrated on how Lou never received messages through Tom's sister and how he missed many opportunities to speak and be interviewed. I found it a bit odd how the concern about scheduling was, and not the accusations of embezzlement and SEC violations. If Tom DeLonge said he was going to do all those things and solicited public money, like build a spaceship, do all these projects around UFOs, and then he took the money and used it for some other purpose, that would be considered embezzlement and be a serious SEC violation. McGowan goes on to state, but the nature of our talks was like this, where seemingly important topics were only briefly touched on in favor of deeper dives into meaningless areas. Nothing further regarding Tom was ever said, but I got the distinct impression that Tom was acting like a loose cannon. The topic was never brought up again. However, I would and do reflect on this often and wonder, if this was true, how the SEC hasn't taken action, why Tom was unable to make his movie, and how the current iteration of TTSA is still soliciting funds from investors. It didn't line up. But then again, not much ever had. So take this event with a grain of salt. It may have happened as he stated, or it may have been deflection. I don't know either way. So interestingly, this is things that Tom DeLonge is telling people in private. So in public, these are things that Luis Elizondo are telling people, right? In private conversations. In public, he's not saying any of this, right? maybe because he was part of that TTSA board and he may have some culpability for what happened to all those investor monies. And I have lamented that and reflected on the fact that all of these UFO circle jerkers that got to interview Luis Elizondo, some of them got to interview Luis Elizondo a bunch of times, never asked Luis Elizondo, hey, what happened to all that money that people sent in to TTSA? You guys were supposed to build a spaceship with a revolutionary power source that would change the world and do all these things for disclosure, and we never got anything. What happened to all the money? But not one person, friends, not one UFO circle jerk clown that Luis Elizondo agreed to be interviewed by ever asked him what happened to the money. What happened to the money, Luis Elizondo? Now we may know what happened to that money. Now we may have a clearer picture of why he left TTSA. And that was kind of shocking for me to see. And it gets better, though. We're going to share another piece of the puzzle here. And bear with me. I did see a few super chats. We'll be reading them at the end of tonight's presentation. In this other section, Jeremy writes, the idea that maybe, just maybe, remote viewing is actual, and maybe, just maybe, it's possible to remote view the future. Maybe Lou is a skilled practitioner of remote viewing. Then maybe, just maybe, that's a lot of maybes, what he said is true. It's the non-0% chance what he said is true that stuck with me and continues to eat part of my rational brain. It causes me to this day a significant amount of anger and concern. See, there was a part of the event that I didn't write. I was still considering something for relevancy and potential inclusion in this article, and honestly wondering if I should share such a deeply personal event. In the end, I decided to elaborate because I feel you need to know. You need to know what to watch out for. You need information from all available perspectives to make the most accurate, informed decision possible. Lou Elizondo gave me a precise date, and no, I'm not going to say when that date is, so don't ask, of when something was to occur to me that I would have a very difficult time getting over. I mentioned it in passing, but I didn't explain how hard this hit me and still hits me. If remote viewing the future is possible, and if Lou has the ability, what right did he have to push this on me? I never asked to be told about my future. I never asked what was to happen to me. Had anyone asked, hey, would you like to know your future? I would have said no, especially when an adverse negative event. I don't want to spend years counting down the days, walking on eggshells, imagining what it could be: a car crash, the death of a loved one, a house fire, a debilitating disease, an assault. But that is exactly what I'm going through. And he did not have the right to say that to me. He had no right. Yeah, and I would agree with McGowan here. And by the way, there is an unwritten rule of psychic readings, and maybe, I don't know if Luis Elizondo is not aware of this, but you're not supposed to do that. It's a cardinal rule of psychic readings that you don't just offer people information unsolicited. And you ask for permission before you even read them. And apparently, Luis Elizondo doesn't care about that. He just read Jeremy McGowan and then offered him this information about a tragic event in his future, even giving him a date. This is very manipulative to me, and I have a real problem with him doing that. I would have a problem if Luis Elizondo did that to me. I would have a problem with anyone. Yeah, and McGowan goes on to say, no one has the right, no one should violate basic human ethics. No one should ever manipulate or otherwise affect the mental health of another human in such a non-volunteer way. This was not asked for. This was not welcomed. This was wrong. This is gaslighting. This is abuse. I fully recognize that the probability of Lou being anything other than a fake, manipulating, self-serving charlatan who uses neuro-linguistic programming and other parlor tricks, which have, in my opinion, a striking similarity to what I've read about the tactics of Scientology, is statistically higher than him being a clairvoyant remote viewer capable of predicting the future. Still, I am now, through the direct cause of his forcing this upon me, stuck in a constant battle between what if he's right versus he's full of it. This plagues me. My rational brain knows this to be manipulation, but the simple fact that I remain open to the idea of Wu being at least partially real keeps me thinking there may be something to this. I second guess nearly everything I do to prevent enacting a self-fulfilling prophecy. Really, really, it's really, really troubling to me that this happened, right? And we'll share another part here. I have just a few more parts to share with you, and then we'll get to some audience interaction. We'll read all the super chats, and thank you all. By the way, we've got a great room full of people here. We call it the Peanut Gallery. We don't have a better name for the live chat. Thank you all for being here in the Peanut Gallery. He says here, I see two blatant violations of basic human values here. If he knows the future, he should never force that knowledge upon anyone who doesn't directly ask for it. And again, there is an unwritten rule. Did you know that you're not supposed to even do a tarot card reading for somebody without asking permission, or any form of psychic reading, really? McGowan goes on to say the ramifications of this disclosure alter personalities, change lives, create unwanted stress and angst, and violate the basic foundations of personal sovereignty and the very definition of ethical behavior, not to mention the direct invasion of privacy by gaining access to personal information that hasn't even happened yet. It is anti-humanistic and approaches the boundaries of being simply evil. If he is full of it, I'm going to say it. We're trying to curse less here, friends. So my apologies, but you can see what it says, full of it, a word that rhymes with it. Then his words were designed in a way to forcefully change behavior without any regard to the well-being of the receiver and without any care whatsoever to any mental collateral damage it may do, all for a self-serving reason and without care. This, too, is approaching the boundaries of being simply evil. I do not see a scenario where his actions positively affect anyone outside of himself. If he could really remote view the future, he should have seen all of this coming, but maybe he did. I am swirling in circular logic and drowning in self-guessing. I mean, it's easy to see how somebody giving you a date of some tragic event in your life could cause you mental stress, anxiety, angst. I wouldn't want to live with that date. I'd be worried about that date the whole time it was approaching, and I myself would probably do a countdown like, oh man, I've only got 2 months until that tragic event comes. And it would make me wonder about fate. Like, can I avert this tragedy in my future somehow? What if I just stayed in my house? But then there's all kinds of possibilities, maybe I'll just stay in my house. Well, what if there's a house fire and I shouldn't stay in my house? And there's all these possibilities, timelines and decisions that you make that may or may not affect this tragic future event still to come. And I don't think that we can, discount the effect that what he did to McGowan would have on the average person. I think it's extremely problematic, right? And now let's get into the fact that Luis Elizondo is a liar and an embellisher. In short, he's a bull artist. That's what he does. So they're going to pitch this television show, and McGowan writes about the television show pitch. He says, embarrassing, false, inaccurate, sensationalized, overhyped, disingenuous. And now I was placed in a position where I could either call him out in front of these top Hollywood executives and kill the entire deal, or I could just nod my head and hope I wasn't asked for any confirmation. This was not the meeting I expected, and it certainly wasn't anything I was comfortable with. At this point, Mark Barash, the writer and co-producer of James Fox movies The Phenomenon, began to speak and introduce himself by highlighting his involvement in documenting stories such as Roswell and efforts with Ted Turner, and his reach into the world of media, as well as his involvement with remote sensing technology, not woo, with satellite imagery from Maxar, the European Space Agency, and blockchain applications that involved reforestation efforts identified through remote sensing platforms. Yeah, that's a mouthful. He goes on to say, the interesting thing is now, I still believe it was Mark, drew the comparison to this film project to that of TTSA and how TTSA didn't have the fill of people around them to build the media business. While they had the intellectual capital, they were missing the entertainment enterprise. And you know that got you, Lou. And you know what that got you, Lou. Lou confirmed and responded with, absolutely, this is exactly what we see now, the capability to take what we have done and turn it into reality. And this is why it's so important that you have a chance to talk with these gentlemen now, not only just on the Osiris, that would be Jeremy McGowan's vehicle, by the way, that we mentioned, but our meeting afterward where we're going to talk to other individuals and other verticals we discussed, the other intellectual property, and turn this truly into a multimedia capability. So apparently, Luis Elizondo overpromised and underdelivered. That is my mantra, friends. All of the UFO hucksters do this. They overpromise and they underdeliver, right? 1 second. So let me get the next portion of this. 1 second. Oh, we're going to share this one too. I have a bunch of them here, and some of them I for time's sake, we may skip over, but other intellectual property, other individuals, TTSA, other verticals, Jeremy states, what is happening? What was, where was this going? And what the hell was I now involved with? This had gone from 0 to 60 from Jake Mann and I discussing that it might be interesting to document the Osiris build and do some data collection, to me having non-existent embassy guarding NSA hyperspectral and radiological technology to reinvent TTSA and become a multimedia push. This had no resemblance to anything I had originally envisioned. Lou even stated that he had spoken with Chris Mellon that very day, stated that Chris was fully aware and supportive of what we were doing, and expressed to the Hollywood execs that we weren't doing this in a vacuum and that we had Chris 100% blessing. This really struck me as odd. Was this Lou further pushing the idea that the project has the support of people of significance? Did Hollywood need reassurance? Was this just posturing? Was this another reason for that interjection? To this day, I don't know. But personally, I feel as if it was just chest thumping. After being involved in a few TV shows and a movie, it certainly doesn't appear to me that Hollywood really cares about whether former representatives of the United States government supported production. At this point, I felt that any authenticity, honesty, and all the reasons I first became involved with the project had evaporated and were replaced with artificial production designed for very specific and desired by others payoff. In other words, Luis Elizondo is going for a payday. And poor Jeremy McGowan, I feel for him here because I've talked to him several times, both on and off air. I think that Jeremy is a genuine truth seeker. He really, he really wants to get to the truth behind the UFO phenomenon. I don't think that he cares about TV show deals and fame and book deals and all of these things. His focus really is on the phenomenon and getting to the truth of it, right? It's unfortunate that this happened to somebody like him and not somebody that would jump at an opportunity to get a TV show deal, even if you had to lie like hell to get it. And then there was some talk about Luis Elizondo was going to give a briefing to a foreign government, which, by the way, may be illegal for him to do. So that's problematic. Let's share my screen once again, friends. Here we go. After Luis Elizondo mentions to Jeremy that he's going to do a briefing for a foreign government, Jeremy says, my heart actually skipped a beat on that statement, thinking that Lou Elizondo, an alleged former leader of a classified project inside the Pentagon, was going to provide a briefing to foreign nationals on that classified project. Again, how is this even possible? Is the briefing sanctioned by the U.S. government, or didn't they know? Was ATIP an actual U.S. government program, or wasn't it? Thinking if it wasn't, it could explain how he could talk to foreign nationals about it. If it were, then he would either need U.S. government permission or he was still the permitting authority. I was very confused. I am still very confused. I can actually imagine Lou reaching through the computer and attempting to remote view the executives in the future and tell them how successful the show had become. So Lou Elizondo, who hides behind a non-disclosure agreement all the time, is telling people that he's going to brief foreign nationals about the program, the classified program he claimed to have run in the Pentagon. That's not how this works, friends. That's not how any of this works. McGowan goes on to say, I feel lucky that the HBO Max pitch ended the way it did. My interpretation of the severe uphill climb we would face to get a show provided the right opportunity at the right time to finally step out of the control I now feel I was under. Back at my house, reflecting on everything, all the red flags, all the embellishments, all the sensationalism, everything that Lou did to me, the apparent lies I was told, it all came together in my mind, and I decided to leave the project finally. There wasn't any more team building, no more calls with Hollywood executives, just a period of calm where I could process everything in my own right and analyze without interruption what the hell the last year had been. So, they manipulated Jeremy McGowan for a full-on year. Then he quits the project. He sent Sean Cahill a text message saying, I'm doing this without a film crew. This wasn't what it was supposed to be. Ever since we left Wyoming, I've been treated as a pariah and placed in a corner with a good bot sit command. I was doing this for me. I was doing this to get answers. I was doing this to help my own mentality. But when I'm treated externally the way I feel internally, it's time for me to choose a different path. So Jeremy leaves this project that Luis Elizondo, Cahill, and him, where they're trying to get a TV show deal based on all of his work with the Osiris vehicle and project, while basically embellishing, over promising to the Hollywood executives, the HBO people, to get the TV show deal done. They promised those people that this Osiris had all kinds of things and could do all kinds of things that it couldn't do, including get on a boat and go over to Rendlesham Forest in England somehow. It's pie in the sky nonsense, but we could see the profiteering. So Cahill stated, so if you figure you want to go to the playground and scrap it out, I have the house to myself. Please call. Tomorrow, I'm making business calls I can't undo. This ain't a threat. It's a lifeline. Your call. I need you to be decisive. What is it with these guys threatening to take people behind the barn, right? Sean's basically threatening to beat him up. Real adult of Sean Cahill. Sean Cahill is a weasel. Weasel wannabe. He's a Lou Elizondo butt licker. That's what that guy is. Sean launched into the most aggressive, hateful, and incomprehensible tirade of words I've ever heard since perhaps my drill sergeant in basic training. I had the phone on speaker, and my wife listened with her mouth wide open, nearly in shock from the screaming on the other side of the line. I wonder if Sean would pass hail from lack of oxygen with his apparent failure to breathe. I never found out as I hung up when I heard him say that. I simply have to accept the fact that I'm your effing boss in this, and you will do what I tell you to do. So, this, my friends, is what narcissistic, manipulative people do. They freak out when you finally wake up and get out from under their control. McGowan says, oh, how I longed for the days where you could slam the phone in a rage quit episode of a call. Now hitting the big red hang up button on a touchscreen just doesn't have the same cathartic effect. I've not spoken a word to Sean since that day. Amazing. And we've got just a couple of more here to share, and then we'll get to your comments and questions. I'll be taking questions shortly. Yes, and McGowan goes on to state that after leaving the project, he faced many of the things that I faced for being critical of Lou Elizondo. And it's important to remember that people made up things about him. They said he got fired from the project. Lou and Sean fired him because he wasn't a team player. The Lou Elizondo cult really went after him. And here, I will share this because this is important. And why do we see a pattern of abuse from Luis Elizondo and their supporters when things don't go well for Lou? They always blame the other people. Yeah. The claims I received were those of a lunatic, accusing the leader of the disclosure movement with unethical behavior, manipulations, disinformation, sensationalism, and what I perceived as lies. I had no wingman, no confidant, no one to validate what I was saying, and my speaking up with the hate, attacks, threats, vitriol, lies, and rants took another mental toll on me. The attacks were constant, nonstop, and often involved my family, my kids, and my wife. People contacted my employer and attempted to get me fired. And again, this is all the Luis Elizondo cult. Why will Luis Elizondo not make a statement condemning people doing these things in his name? People contacted Jeremy's employer and attempted to get him fired. Others contacted DISA and attempted to get my security clearance revoked. It was an onslaught of hate, pure unadulterated hate. I was drowning and I couldn't catch my breath. My personal number was leaked on Reddit. So there they go. They're doxing him. I received death threats and filed reports with Las Vegas Metropolitan Police. To this day, I am targeted by fanatics or those who have swallowed the blue Lou pill and believe that he is the Messiah of disclosure. Yeah, some disclosure, some Messiah. And this will be the last portion we are sharing. Again, I highly encourage you to read this whole thing, especially if you want to be fully informed on the fraud that is Luis Elizondo. He's not who he pretends to be, friends. This is who Luis Elizondo is. In the final portion of his piece, McGowan states, as I mentioned previously, I do feel the most militant and ardent supporters of Lou, Papa Lou, to many of them, should be given a bit of a pass. He's more forgiving than I am, friends. I have not forgiven the people who threatened, intimidated, harassed, doxed me, and more. I haven't forgiven those people. And I, in full honesty, I haven't forgiven Luis Elizondo. Because in my view, Luis Elizondo may have condoned and even encouraged the behavior of these cult-like followers. He never condemned that behavior. After he was informed that this idiot show that he went on was doing that to me and others, he didn't put out a statement condemning people threatening, intimidating, and harassing people and their families, or doxing people, telling people to get me and releasing my street name and my legal name so people could find me at my home. He never condemned that. So McGowan says that he's more forgiving than me, honestly, friends. He says they should be given a bit of a pass, even in the light of their constant belittlement and attacks upon myself and others. They may well not fully realize their actions, reasons, or results. Every decision, action, and effort has second and third order consequences. Outcomes that are different from the first desired outcome, yet are directly related to the initial decision. When one is, quote, under a spell, unquote, so to speak, one tends to be oblivious to fully understanding the consequences. And he goes, that's the end, but he goes on to say, this marks the end of part 4 of my 5-part series of articles. In the following weeks, I will begin to write and publish the final article. Once I finish this series, I sincerely hope I've advanced people's desires for actionable truth. It's not enough to trust. It's not enough to believe. Part 5 will detail my involvement with UAPX, where I am now, and what comes next. Until then, dear reader, go outside, look up, and watch your back, because no one watches out for you better than yourself at the end of the day, unless you happen to be a part of UAPX. So there we have it, friends. And there was some mention that someone put like $17,000 of their own money into producing sort of the demos that would be used to sell this television show to HBO or some other distributor host television network. And I wonder how that person feels, having invested $17,000 and the project never went anywhere. You know, things like camera crews, video editing, digital effects, and all kinds of that, you know, stuff, drone footage, stock footage, you know, crew members to film things, grips and lighting guys and sound guys, all of that costs a lot of money. And somebody put up the money, fronted the money here to sell this television show idea that was clearly Lou and Sean's idea, latching on to Jeremy, saying, oh, we'll use that Osiris vehicle that you've developed to get us a TV show deal. Come with us. And didn't work out well. Didn't work out real well for one Jeremy McGowan, unfortunately. And we see the details of that. And it's really unfortunate that this happened to him. And I feel bad for him, but I'm glad that he has had the courage to stand up and say, this is what happened when I got involved with Luis Elizondo. And this is what kind of a person Luis Elizondo is. And isn't it great? That we get to see that Lou Elizondo's entire focus seems to be on the profit of UFOs. And that's not on the truth. He doesn't give a crap about the truth about UFOs. He cares about the money that come with UFOs. It's as if flying saucers are just filled with money, and Lou Elizondo's got a vacuum, right? And he's trying to suck up every dollar he can from those UFOs. So there's your disclosure messiah, you stupid people that worship this dummy, right? There's your disclosure messiah. There's what he does to people he's close to. He is willing to deceive, manipulate anyone to get to those UFO dollars. And, you know, if this was an isolated incident, I would be cautious about saying that Luis Elizondo is a manipulator of perceptions and people. But given the fact that multiple people have said they felt manipulated by Luis Elizondo, including journalists, show hosts, and in full honesty, it's my belief that Luis Elizondo has manipulated some of these people that are out there attacking his critics, that are out there threatening people and doxing people. And I'm entitled to my belief based on the available evidence. And the evidence is that when he's informed that the shows that he is supporting and being interviewed by are threatening, intimidating, doxing people and their families, when he's informed of that, not only does he not put out a statement condemning those people for doing that, in my opinion, he rewarded them by going on their show again directly after they did that to his critics. It's not a coincidence to me. And in full honesty, maybe I'm biased because I was one of those people who was threatened, intimidated, cyberstalked, harassed, whatever you want to, whatever you want to call it. I try to be a forgiving person, and I'm working on being a more forgiving person. And in time, I'll let it go. But when somebody involves your significant other or your children, or, says hateful things about your wife in your live chat, you get biased quickly. And I did, and I don't believe that Luis Elizondo is a stupid person. But part of me thinks he is stupid because he should be smart enough to realize that when people threaten or intimidate or harass or dox people like me or other researchers, it doesn't make us stop researching him. It didn't work in any of these cases. Lou Elizondo's cult has failed miserably at shutting his critics up. All it does is piss off the critic and make them go harder in many, many cases. And we have seen that, other people like Green Street were treated similarly. People are passing around lists calling people felons. By the way, I was mentioning that. And again, I'm not a felon. Did that shut up Green Street, or did it make him pissed off and research more and reveal more about the facade and the false narrative being put forth by one Luis Elizondo? Now, where we're at now, friends, here's where we find ourselves. We find ourselves in the same position we always find ourselves when one of these new UFO messiahs pops up. Was Tom DeLonge promising disclosure? Tom DeLonge took the money and ran. Didn't give us no disclosure. But he took $2 million of public investment money and he made some stupid movie with it that had nothing to do with anything he promised the investors who gave him that money. And Tom DeLonge falls apart as a UFO messiah. He's another money-grubbing grifter. And then Luis Elizondo takes the center spotlight as the new UFO messiah, disclosure messiah, who's going to bring us disclosure. And trust me, dude, this guy's different. He's a serious, intelligence officer, former military. He's not another profiteering huckster just out for money. And he's not a nutter like all those other guys, right? Trust me, dude. This guy, Luis Elizondo, he's different. He's going to bring us the disclosure that he promises. He's not another nutter. He's not out for money. Oh, shit. Yes, he is. Damn. Just another UFO profiteering huckster. And not a nutter like the rest of them. Oh, wait. He has superpowers. Luis Elizondo's got superpowers, friends. And what does he do with those superpowers? He psychologically tortures people by telling them that tragic event is going to come on this date. And you're going to remember it when it happens. Remember me and say, God damn, that guy was right. And then that victim has to sit there wondering, maybe this is real, waiting for that day, worrying every single day that the timer ticks down to that day of tragedy that Luis Elizondo with his fake ass superpowers said was going to happen. Great. And as far as not being about money, we can see from someone close to him that tried to, or was part of a attempt at a business deal. Luis Elizondo is all about the money, all about that next TV show deal. He didn't make enough money with all of the money that TTSA gathered, $2 million. That was, not that he got all of that. Apparently, according to him, Tom DeLonge took that and made a movie, and he didn't get enough of it. So he left. And according to him, Tom DeLonge's probably going to prison for that. He didn't get enough money with that TV show deal that he got out of TTSA. And by the way, all TTSA delivered was videos that Luis Elizondo authorized for internal use in the Pentagon. Those videos were never authorized to be released to the media, despite what we were originally told. There's another lie. And how the hell can a former government worker and his friend, another former government worker in the form of Chris Mellon, somehow get once classified UFO videos out of the Pentagon, into the parking lot, into the computer of TTSA, to then be released to the New York Times and all of the media, and then profit from those taxpayer-funded videos that were never intended to be released to the public or the media for, 5 years now, and not be prosecuted? I want to know how is nobody prosecuted for that? How is the SEC not up Tom DeLonge's asshole right now, wanting to know what he did and what Luis Elizondo did and Chris Mellon and all those other people in TTSA did with every single penny of that TTSA money? They lied to the public. They took money, and then Tom DeLonge, apparently, according to Luis Elizondo and this blog, spent it on a personal project making a stupid movie about aliens. Great. And nobody gets prosecuted? Where's the goddamn spaceship, Tom DeLonge? Where's the goddamn spaceship you promised investors? You stood there on that stage, Luis Elizondo, and why have you never had the courage to publicly discuss what happened to that $2 million that you guys took from the public? You were part of that organization. You got paid out of that. How much money did you make from TTSA out of that $2 million that was publicly invested? How much money did you take, Luis Elizondo? And where's the goddamn spaceship you promised everyone? Standing on a stage like a dummy while Tom DeLonge promised everybody a spaceship. But this is where we're at, and this is where we find ourselves. Another UFO messiah is revealed for what he really is: a fraud, a fake, and a UFO profiteering huckster with a false narrative and a false public persona. His public persona and the reality of who he really is are completely 180-degree opposites. His public persona: I'm here for disclosure. I'm going to get us disclosure. I'm going to force those government types. He is the government. He's going to get us the proof. He's going to get us the truth about UFOs from those government people that are hiding it from us. He is the government. He lied about that too. Oh, I left the Pentagon. No, or I left the Defense Department. No, you didn't, because you still work for them. According to him, he works for Space Force. He never left government employment, ever, apparently. He left one cushy government job for another cushy government job. He never left the government like he claimed. He is the government, and no one should trust the government or anything the government says. And this, my friends, will conclude tonight's presentation. So we will take comments and questions from everyone here in the live chat. I would be happy to answer any questions. Alien Scientist is here and says, disclosure, let's build a UFO. Well, I will say this. If I had to bet, like if you put Alien Scientists on a stage with every other UFO guy, right? And every one of them stepped forward and said, I'm going to build a UFO with a revolutionary power source and anti-gravity. If it was Stephen Greer, Luis Elizondo, Tom DeLonge, Richard Dolan, anybody you want, David Wilcock, Corey Good, anybody you want, and Alien Scientist, if I was a betting man, I would bet my house that Alien Scientists would do it before any of these huckster frauds would. And by the way, I hope he's not pissed off at me because I covered some of the wackadoos that were talking at the conference that he was talking at. And I heard from Eric, who is also here in the live chat, that Jeremy's presentation at this Secret Space Program conference was excellent. And Michael Schratz's presentation was excellent. And Darcy Weir's was very good. And then you got a bunch of wackadoos. And then there was a bunch of academics there that were pretty good, according to Eric. So nice to see Alien Scientists there in our live chat. Dirty Bang. I can't say that. Dirty Bong. That's a hell of a chat room user ID. Yeah, I can't say it, but I agree with you, right? Yes, you need a bad goatee in order to sell disclosure to people. Yes, so I will take comments and questions from the live chat. Oh, here we go. Eric is here. And by the way, we want to welcome Eric, the Awakening Man. Some of you don't know this, but Eric is at every Bigfoot conference anywhere. If there's a Bigfoot convention, he's at it. And he's at every secret space convention or event. If there's a special event where people are talking about UFOs or Bigfoot or aliens or anything crazy like that, or Eric's there. So we're going to enlist him, and he's going to become sort of the Truth Seekers on location correspondent. Tomorrow, he's going to Bigfoot conference, and he's going to be sharing some things with us here at Truth Seekers. So we welcome Eric, the Awakening Man, as we drafted him. I didn't give him a choice. I said, Eric, you're at all these things. You're doing this for us. And I think he agreed, right, Eric? You more or less agreed. We're working it out. We're gonna have him send us videos, maybe do some interviews right on the ground at all these conferences, and we're gonna bring you what he finds at each of the conferences. But he says alien scientists had the best presentation at the Secret Space conference last week, Stephen. Yeah, it must have been surreal. Did you guys meet? Did you talk to him? Did you meet him, Eric? I think you did, right? My first question for him was, have you ever done DMT? I swear what they describe, it sounds like DMT. Alien scientists got to meet a 20M backer. Yeah, we covered some of the nutters, not the good ones. That's my lot in life. I didn't get to cover alien scientists' excellent presentation, because he had facts and evidence and real science. I got to cover some nutter that's telling people he can cure cancer-related pain with magnets and beeswax. Eric says Bigfoot lives in Idaho, sorry. And alien scientist said, yes, we met. Good for you guys. And they smoked something together. Good for you guys. Oh, he said kidding. Well, you were in California. It's legal. We could say that. It's okay. It's legal in California. Kepsa is here and says, I only go to Dino Beaver conferences. Good for you. And now is a good time. I'm supposed to remind, I'm terrible at this YouTube thing. I'm supposed to remind everyone that this is a viewer-supported show. One of the ways you can help us is by smashing that money button down there and throw a few bucks in our hat to keep us honest and doing good work. And you can also become a Patreon member for as little as $1 a month. You get some extra content, early access to our content here, and extra goodies. And we do a monthly show journal. You get all my music that's unreleased and more. And you can become a YouTube channel member for $5 or more. Or I think it's $5, yeah. And so if you're a YouTube channel member, you get all the Patreon benefits and some extra YouTube goodies, a member badge and priority reply and all kinds of extra goodies. I'm terrible at the pitch, or I'm not a good salesperson. So if you're feeling generous, throw a few bucks in our hat and keep us honest here and doing good work. We will be expanding sort of the show here in the coming months, and every dollar going into the coffers is helping us to do that. In other words, more software, better software. We're looking into getting a subscription to a stock footage house so that we can make better videos, and maybe some other extra software. We're expanding the StreamYard software. So the money that is donated to the show is really used to expand the show. And I appreciate everyone's kindness, generosity, and support. We read every single super chat here, and we thank every single person. You can also donate through PayPal or Cash App, and we read whatever message that you send us. And I will check in with that. We'll read the super chats, and then any questions or comments for me, please put them in all capital letters. I happen to be visually impaired, and that really does help me. It really does help me. Yes, Kramer did do an interview today on YouTube, and we're going to cover that. He did it with those idiots from, what is it, Quest for Truth or something like that? The Corey Good idiots. Yeah. Yeah. And Dirty Bong says, man, forgot about Kramer. So crazy watching what looks like a meth addict talk about being a space soldier. Yeah. Why are super soldiers always in such terrible shape, Dirty Bong? They're usually like real fat and out of shape, and and for those unaware, Randy Kramer claims that he's a space marine, like the game Halo. He even uses some of the weapons. When somebody asks him about the weapons, he describes weapons from the video game Halo. And he claims that he went to Mars and fought insectoid aliens, like Starship Troopers. It's ridiculous. And he's like fat and overweight, but he claims that he's a super soldier and he has superpowers. I once challenged him to a boxing match and offered $10,000 to his favorite charity if he won. and I wanted him to use his superpowers because he's a super soldier and I'm just a regular slob, and I was going to box him. He didn't like that, and he refused to come here and do an interview. Eric says Kramer has the best hustle. Well, I'll have to take your word for that. I really will have to take your word for that. So we're going to check in with the super chats. It looks like we got Sweet Cheeks today with a kind and generous $10 super chat. Says, good to see you live, Stephen. Keep up the great work. Well, thank you, Sweet Cheeks, for your kindness, your generosity, and support. If anybody else is feeling generous, get them in now, because we're gonna wrap things up here. To be fair, his claims are no more ridiculous than your average experiencer, except that he claims to be a Marine, and anybody can check and find out that he's never been in the Marines. It's just a lot of lies, you know. Kepsa says, I was feeding them too. Good, my fault. After all, I was the best chef of SSP on Mars. Yeah. Dirty Bong says, I didn't know you challenged him. Yeah, I thought a super soldier should be able to beat my ass easy, Dirty Bong. But he didn't want to do it. And he didn't even want to talk about it. He ignored me. Yeah. So we are going to bounce on out of here. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us. I want to thank all of our kind and generous benefactors who throw a few bucks in the hat here and keep us honest and keep us working and keep everything here working. We pay for, the software and StreamYard and Spreaker and all of these things. Oh, that's another thing. I'm happy to announce, and I will never let it happen again. I got busy over the summer. And so somehow the audio podcast got about a month behind our shows here. We're now all caught up, except for tonight's show, which I will be downloading and uploading to Spreaker as soon as we're finished with the broadcast. That's what I should have been doing. I would let things go and go, I'll do it at the end of the week. And then I got busy at the end of the week. Anyway, we were a month behind. The audio podcast was a month behind the regular shows here. We are now all caught up. So to all of you people who have sent me messages, I apologize that it got that far behind. I know many of you people who drive trucks or things, depend on the audio podcast or, whatever. A lot of people prefer to just listen. They don't watch. So we're all caught up now. And I love and appreciate all you people in audio podcast land listening on our audio side. But I want to remind you, if you are listening in audio podcast land, it's a replay, of course. But we love the people listening to the replays or watching the replays. We love all of you people. But if you're listening to the audio podcast, you're missing half the fun. So please do go on over to YouTube and click the search bar, the search icon, that little magnifying glass, and put Truth Seekers, one word, in the search bar. You'll see me pop up. Remember, Truth Seekers, one word. You'll see a strange guy with sunglasses pop up. Go to that channel. That would be us here, Truth Seekers. And smash the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and you too will know when we're doing a live show. Come on over here. Participate in our interactive live chats. You can ask questions, comments, discuss the show and the topics we're talking about, or anything with the other show participants in the live chat. We have a very open-minded crew here of people, believers, skeptics, people interested in all kinds of strange and esoteric subjects. In other words, weirdos like you. And I'm one of those weirdos, of course, or I wouldn't be doing a show like this. You are most welcome. Please do go over to YouTube, Truth Seekers in the search bar, smash the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and come on over here and be a part of the festivities when we record the shows live here. So that's all I got for you, friends. And B. Baker, the lead chat room moderator, is here, reminding everybody, please do join our Discord. Lot of brilliant, funny people there, and he gives the link. So if you enjoy talking to weirdos, you can not only do it here when we're doing a live broadcast, fellow weirdos, you can also talk to people 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in our Discord server. We've got multiple sections on all different strange and esoteric topics. People are posting great shows in there and information and research material. There's a meme section, all kinds of different sections on conspiracy land topics mostly. I'm sure you will enjoy it. Please go over there. And we are going to be hosting some live voice chats in the Discord soon. B. Baker, I thought we were going to do it, and we've planned to do it for a while. We're going to start setting a date and time to do these voice chats in the Discord. Alien Scientist says, thanks, fellow weirdos, and have a great night. Yes. Cambian's Roughneck, Space Mobile Industry, says unknown sender. Yes, and 5x5 News says, good night, everyone. Wishing you a happy holiday weekend. Yes, it's a Jewish holiday on Monday. My children have off, which, no offense, I'm not real happy about. But, you know, oh, man, that's like, it's tough all day, 12 hours with these two boys. They're getting, I call them the knuckleheads sometimes. I'm always like, oh, no, what are these knuckleheads doing now? You know, they're kind of getting into mischief lately, but it's funny, and I try not to laugh when I see the shit that they're doing. You know, like one time I caught them, the younger one can't reach the top of the pantry even with a chair, so he gets his older brother. It's like Pinky and the Brain, you know, like the younger one's the brain. He's like, go ahead, Zach, stand on the chair, go ahead, okay, now get the cookies, get them down. And then he delves out the cookies to him and his brother, of course, giving himself more of them because he's the brain somehow. And I can't help but laugh, but I'm trying to like, hey, I'm making dinner. We're going to, you know, it's so funny. These kids they drive me nuts, but then I got to laugh sometimes at some of the antics that they get up to. Two crazy brothers, right? So we're going to bounce on out of here. I got to get my bumpers together. Today is Thursday. There will probably be a show tomorrow night, but if there is, it will be late because I got to go to the cabin and I got to finish this either tomorrow or Saturday. I will do one more show for the week, live show, and we will be having a bunch of premieres over the weekend, so you don't forget about us over the weekend. Monday, we're back to live shows, but I'll probably do one live show from the cabin over the weekend, and we have a bunch of premieres. We've migrated all of my old show now, except for one episode that's left. That's the Midnight Hour show that I used to do the audio podcast. And the last episode will premiere on this channel this weekend, and that is my interview with John McAfee. And once we have premiered that this weekend, we will have migrated every one of my former show's episodes here, so you all can enjoy them. We also have a couple of production videos that are premiering this weekend. A new Wacky World of Wilcock. We are going to upload that video about Luis Elizondo's superpowers and brain rape, and a couple other extra surprises as well. I think Spooky's working on a clip produced video as well. So we're going to have a fun weekend because we've got a premiere here of my interview with John McAfee, one more live show, and a couple other produced videos, including another Wacky World of Wilcock, which I love those. It's like a guilty pleasure of mine to go through a video of his and just clip out ridiculous stuff he says and glue it all together. It really is. So we got a lot of extra goodies coming for you guys on this weekend. Don't forget, please. Also, the other way that you can help us here is B. Baker reminding everybody is to hit the like and subscribe and share. Please do like, comment, subscribe, and share these videos. It really does help. If you share these videos on your Twitter and Facebook and other social media sites, it really does help us, because the more that the link is posted, the higher our show gets raised in the Google search algorithms. They see that web of links and they raise us. So we need your help to gain favor with the AI overlords. Please AI, YouTube, algorithm overlords, find favor in us, and we will have human people post our links so that you love us more. Please, in Google's name we pray. Amen. There's my daily prayer. My life is in the hands of the YouTube algorithm. An AI overlord is controlling my fate, but you can help please the AI overlord by posting these videos on your social media. It really does help. And please be sure to like and comment. Make some comments. I try to spend some time every day answering questions in the comments section. And we really do appreciate all you people that are chiming in. We welcome all people's opinions. So even if you disagree with anything I said, that's fine as well. We can have a discussion. We can agree to disagree. We can come to common ground. We can do, we can have a conversation about these strange and esoteric topics. I love doing that. So you're welcome to comment in our comments section here. So that's all I got for you, friends. I'm heading to the cabin tomorrow night. That cabin patio porch thing has been kicking my butt, but I'm going to win. This weekend, I'm going to finish at least the stone patio in front of that whole thing, and that will have meant that I have built a 10 by 36 natural stone patio by myself. Amazing. I can't wait to get there and get working on it. I have work lights. I might start on it tomorrow night in the dark because I'm not going to be able to sleep anyway. I might as well. It's going to take 4 or 5 hours. I might as well just bang it out and then hopefully still wake up early and get started on the beams of the porch for the cabin porch. And we'll have updates from the cabin this weekend. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us. I want to thank our kind and generous benefactors. And I want to thank Erica Lukes. We used a clip of our show. Please do visit her. If you're not already subscribed to her, she's one of the good guys. Go subscribe to her channel. And I want to thank Jeremy McGowan for having the courage to come forward and tell the truth about his not so nice experience with one Luis Elizondo. I, for one, am thankful. He could have just went away and not talked about what happened. But we would all be lesser, and we would all know less of the truth about this man, Luis Elizondo, if he chose to take the easy road. It wasn't easy for him to stand and stand in truth and say, this is what this man is really like, and this is what happened when I was near him and dealing with him. I'm thankful for that, and I'm going to keep him in my prayers and hope that Luis Elizondo is full of it, and that date comes and goes with nothing happening, which will be a further confirmation that Luis Elizondo does not have superpowers. Okay, I said it. All right, and all you Lou Elizondo fanboys, and especially you nameless, faceless, brand new Twitter accounts, don't come at me on Twitter, you bunch of cowards hiding behind fake names and fake Twitter accounts, right? I don't care what you say. This dummy is running around telling people he's got superpowers. That's your hero. There's your disclosure messiah. Another disclosure messiah with superpowers. Awesome. Real credible. I wonder if Tucker Carlson and all those major media people he's been a guest on their show, I wonder if they all know that he has superpowers. Well, I'm going to let them know. Lou Elizondo's got superpowers. Yeah, I love it. I love him claiming to have superpowers. Yeah. A lot of you know, when somebody, look, I'm very open-minded about a lot of stuff, but when people start talking about their superpowers, generally I check out, because we do not live in the DC universe or in the Marvel cinematic universe. Superpowers are not real, just so you know. And I think Lou Elizondo's superpowers are just as fake as David Wilcox. And that's where I'm at, and that's where I find myself. So that's where I find myself, and that's where we find ourselves. So until next time, friends, my name is Stephen Cambion. Good night, and God bless all of you.